program was recorded at the CSCMP Annual Conference in San Diego. I'm pleased to welcome Supply Chain Brain Editor-in-Chief, Russell Goodman.
Hello. Joining us for a conversation today on the importance of the C-TPAT program to companies in the supply chain is Barry Brandman, President of Danbee Investigations. Barry, welcome.
Thank you, Russell.
Barry, walk us through some of the advantages, the major advantages that you see to a company that joins the C-TPAT program.
Well, the most important advantages, of course, that companies are going to be looking at will be financial and logistical. To begin with, companies that are certified members typically enjoy inspections that are significantly less than companies that are not certified members. And that equates to not only a significant savings in the costs of importing goods into the United States, but it also equates to companies being able to fulfill orders and contracts to their customers. In fact, that's such an important prerogative today that many of the biggest retailers in the United States are requiring companies that service them or provide goods to them to be a certified member in good standing, because there's far less risk of interruption to the goods flowing onto their shelves if there's any type of an operational or security threat that takes place in the United States or abroad. And I think to a large extent, being a C-TPAT certified company today is a reflection of excellence, much like ISO is to operational performance. I think that companies that are C-TPAT certified, especially those that have been validated and given the highest level of Tier 3, are considered to be very well-run, well-managed companies and attractive companies to do business with.
Is it fair to say that C-TPAT certification is not solely for the large companies? In fact, is there a typical company that should be interested in C-TPAT certification?
One of the misconceptions about the program when it originated years ago is that it was just a program for the large Fortune 500 importers, and that's not true at all. The CBP has made it clear that they want it to be inclusive to companies of all sizes. And I think that one of the important things to keep in mind when it comes to setting up excellent supply chain security programs is that you don't necessarily have to spend a tremendous amount of money to dramatically upgrade your asset protection program. It's not the amount that you spend, it's how strategically you spend it, and are you utilizing best practices and the smartest technology. So in that regard, companies that are small and medium size can have the advantage of C-TPAT certification if they do the right thing, and they should not be deterred from going towards that certification just because of the volume that they do, and they're not considered to be a Target or a Walmart.
Well, now let me ask you this. Once you have been accepted into C-TPAT, into the program, or have been certified, is that the end of it? Are there any other requirements that you need to meet?
One of the biggest mistakes from a security perspective, and C-TPAT, even though it is a program from Customs and Border Protection, is a pure security initiative. One of the biggest mistakes that a company can make is to look at C-TPAT certification as an indelible tattoo. It's not something that's given to them and cannot be taken away. In fact, there have been hundreds of companies that have been suspended or expelled from the program, and many other companies have had their tier levels downgraded because of bad experiences or validations that didn't go well. This is a program that needs to be looked at like exercise. It's a journey, not a destination. Supply chain security is something that needs to be done right every day, every week, every year. It's not something that you do, look to get to a certain level, have that certification awarded to you, and then think your responsibilities are over. The way that CBP makes sure that companies adhere to their commitment to maintaining good ongoing vigilant security safeguards is through what they call validations. Validations, to a large extent, are audits that are conducted by a team of CBP supply chain security specialists, and they will conduct them domestically and internationally and evaluate your supply chain program. And if they find security deficiencies that are significant, you will be subject to punitive action, and it could very well jeopardize your membership in the program.
We've been talking about certification in the C-TPAT program. Let's turn from that for just a moment and talk about vulnerabilities themselves in corporate supply chains. What do you see as some of the biggest vulnerabilities there, biggest problem areas?
To begin with, and I think we're in a position to benchmark this quite extensively because we do supply chain security audits both domestically and throughout the globe. And we've seen the good, the bad, and everything in between, is that many companies operate under the illusion that their supply chain security program is far better than it actually is. They're going on questionnaires that have been filled out by foreign entities or consolidators, freight forwarders, and they take these answers as being always truthful and accurate. In many cases, there's a huge gap that exists between what companies claim they do and what actually takes place. And when we go out to these locations, in many cases, to verify the vigilance and the effectiveness of their supply chain security program, we find significant gaps. And some of the gaps could well be exploited and end up with having a weapon of mass destruction smuggled aboard a shipment that's coming to the United States. So I think that companies should never just take at face value what the individual vendors and suppliers and their own remote facilities claim that they're doing. It needs to be thoroughly audited, inspected, tested. You need to identify and flush out your weaknesses and vulnerabilities on an ongoing basis, constantly strive to improve your program, and be proactive, not reactive, if you want to maintain your membership in the program and truly protect your company from having your goods tampered with or having, as I say, a weapon of mass destruction, whether it be conventional, chemical, biological, or nuclear, smuggled into your container. That's a nightmare scenario for companies in the supply chain.
Sure. What single piece of advice or takeaway would you give to a viewer who is seriously concerned about protecting the security of his company's supply chain?
I think the biggest danger that a company can have is a false sense of security, which oftentimes is preceded by executive complacency. And the reason that oftentimes will exist, and we find it, is because they will say that their experience is that they've never been victimized. And consequently, they equate the fact that they have not had a bad experience, a catastrophic security event, and they construe that to mean that their company has an excellent supply chain security program. That's not always the case. There's not always a connect there. It may simply be is that their company has not been targeted yet. And the last time that we had a situation that a company told us they thought they had an excellent program, once we went in and conducted an audit, we found no less than 22 or 24 major areas of significant deficiencies that existed in their supply chain program. Fortunately, we were able to identify and remedy them before someone had the opportunity to exploit them and cause them tremendous financial cost and possibly jeopardize their C-TPAT certification. So you want to be very realistic, never become complacent and assume that your program is great just because you haven't had a major disaster, and constantly be proactive in looking for ways to implement smarter best practices and strategically utilize security technology so that your supply chain truly is improving as time goes on.
Well, that's an interesting cautionary tale that probably everybody ought to be taking to heart. Barry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Russell.
That's Barry Brandman, president of Danbee Investigations. He's speaking with us today about the importance of the C-TPAT program to companies in the supply chain. Thank you for watching.